and welcome to Simply inTAXicating. The interim budget, which was widely expected to unfold good amount of tax relief, perhaps has not disappointed a large number of people, at least the middle class, the farmers, the marginal sections of the society, and largely small traders and businesses. In terms of income tax benefits up to 5 lakh rupees, some rebate has been provided in the interim budget. For the farmers, the government, of course, industry also held it as very positive and forward looking, but opposition, of course, predictably billed it as pre-election budget, etc. However, a few fiscal provisions have also been incorporated for amendment in the finance bill. Finance bill proposes significant changes so far as property related tax regime is concerned, apart from the tax relief to individual taxpayers up to 5 lakhs rupees. The real estate sector has traditionally, in the last 4-5 years, not got any major tax relief, and it was surviving on some borrowed oxygen cylinder, and perhaps that was the reason that the outgoing government perhaps decided to give some relief to the real estate sector. We have 3 domain experts who will take a look at all those proposed changes in the finance bill, and also some of the popular schemes which have been announced by the interim finance minister, who happened to be presenting his first budget, Mr Piyush Goyal. So we will take a look at all these aspects. So we have Mr D P Sengupta, the former Chief Commissioner of Income Tax and Joint Secretary TIOL CBDT. We have Mr Pratik Jain, National Leader PwC, and then we have Mr Somesh Arora, former Commissioner of Income Tax and a practicing advocate. So sir, let me start with you, because income tax is the one which has dominated this interim budget. So how do you look at all these changes? Because you were in TPL that time when Mr Jaswant Singh was the finance minister, and it happened to be an interim budget. So normally, sir, this kind of changes normally is not seen in the interim budget, sir. But is it something that one should not be really looking forward to, or it is a done thing, sir?
No, as far as I know, in interim budgets, there are normally no proposals for changes in direct taxes. So to that extent, this budget is different.
Right.
Because although not very substantial, but some changes have been done in the income tax provisions. Earlier budgets, the governments at times proposed what they intended to do if they were re-elected to power.
Okay, sir.
But
they never did it actually.
They never did it actually.
Right, sir. Okay.
So to that extent, it is different.
So historically, sir, interim budgets is supposed to be expressing the intent if we come back to power.
Generally, that is what.
Right, sir. So that makes it different.
Yeah, that's different.
But let's welcome it, sir. I am welcoming it. Yes, sir.
So the most important provision that has caught the attention of everybody,
sir,
is the so-called increase in the exemption limit up to 5 lakhs. That means if you have income up to 5 lakhs of rupees, then you go out of the, you don't have to pay any income tax. But what has been done is actually, it's not an exemption threshold increase. It is not an increase in the exemption threshold. It is actually through the rebate under section 87A. What it means is that if the taxpayer has income in excess of 2,50,000 rupees, but his total income is not, does not exceed 5 lakhs of rupees, then he doesn't pay any tax, but he has to file the return, because there has not been any change in the provision of filing of returns.
So section 139 has not been touched.
Has not been charged.
Right,
so the tax rates and slabs, they continue. It is a personal rebate that has been increased.
So that threshold has gone up from 2,500 to 12,500.
12,500. Yeah, the maximum was to 12,500. Right. Was 2,500 earlier. Now it is 12,500.
But
So-
sir, I remember, sir, in the 2017 budget, it was 5,000 rupees, Section 87A relief, sir. Last year, when the tax rate from 10 to 5, when it was reduced for the slab of 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs rupees, this was slashed from 5,000 to 2,500 rupees.
Yeah, that is.
So, sir, I was just trying to look at, sir, this, is it a case that this Section 87A is something which is found very handy for the outgoing finance minister or any finance minister, even if it is full-fledged?
No, I would say that, like, for example, the total number of taxpayers, the taxpayer base is now a little over 6 crore or 6 crore.
Yes, sir.
So out of that, apparently around 3 crore will
3 crore is
be
the number, yes.
within this 5 lakh range, 2 lakh 50 to 5 lakhs. So you cannot afford to lose that tax base, So
Yes.
it is, I mean, whether tax exemption should be raised or not, I mean, the minimum exemption limit should be raised or not is a political question.
Right.
But once it is decided to that some relief has to be given, then it is a better alternative to give it through the rebate, because you do not lose your tax base.
Right, sir. But here, sir, I would like to go to Pratik and find out. Sir said that, this is a better way of giving tax relief without losing your tax base. But what is happening in case of GST is that you are raising the threshold, and now we have 3 multiple thresholds, and then as per some estimate, the total tax base itself is going to be half now. The moment the threshold goes up to 40.
Because I think GST, the logic of increasing the threshold from 20 lakh to 40 lakh is completely different. The logic was that smaller businesses are spending too much time on compliances. And therefore, you have to give the relief from filing the returns and the compliances. Whereas here, the logic is that you want to give more money in the hands of the, of the common man. And therefore, they can't do that. But I just do hope, and this is something which we have talked about earlier as well, that people who, are going in that bracket now, they should not misuse it by splitting the business and all that, right? I mean, that's something which one will have to really look at very carefully, because otherwise your tax base will seriously get eroded.
Okay.
One more point about that, about the issue of raising the exemption limit,
Sir.
is that if you raise the exemption limit, assuming that you give, you say that 5 lakh is the new threshold, then you give benefit not only to that section of the society.
It goes to everybody, sir.
It goes to everybody.
Right.
So you give it to the undeserving.
Correct.
I think that's to my mind is a logical decision, because on one hand you have given relief to very, very small taxpayer. On the other hand, you have not perhaps gone to the extent you could have gone in what you call as a populism in that sense. So I think between these two choices, what he has exercised perhaps looks more logical and more rational to me.
Okay, so let me go to Somesh. In fact, Pratik said that, we will have to see that in case of GST, there could be certain instances where the businesses will be splitting their, the businesses, particularly in the border districts of various states.
Yeah.
But
See,
I was thinking that maybe since it is a PAN-based GST, do you think this kind of thing will actually help?
see, in the GST, there's an inbuilt safeguard. Let's not forget that the number of people who were below threshold and still they took registration. For the reason they wanted to pass on convertible this thing, they found there were many avenues available. So why not exploit that? So the number of people who were within the threshold is still availed it. So that temptation will be there. For the reason that you want to avail standard credit also, even if you are going to unregistered consumer, still you like to avail standard credit and all that. So there will be a number of people who like, and I don't think it will be a very serious threat. But simply considering the number who were entitled to be within the threshold, they were entitled to not get registered and still who have preferred to get registered. Because there are pressures, they would like to sell things to
I have
bigger
just
companies
small
and-
point that I think, of course, there were people who wanted to take registration. But also, if you recall, when GST came in, if you purchase from an unregistered dealer, you had to pay tax and a reverse charge. And that was also a reason why the bigger businesses did not want to buy from unregistered dealers, and that perhaps played a larger part in them taking a registration. The point I'm making is, and you have to also realize that under the erstwhile regime, under service tax was 10 lakhs, the limit. VAT it was 3, 4 lakh, 5 lakh on an average. So if you have increased it to 40 lakh, of course, the logic is that tax administration needs to focus on larger, businesses, and smaller businesses need to be away from this. But the inherent risk, as Sir pointed out, that the tax base getting eroded. There, if you can still have them file one yearly return, etc., just for them to be in the know, that perhaps would have been a better option. But let's see how it works.
See, as it is, and the GST, as I say, it was happening earlier also in the indirect taxes only. The 5% people who pay about 80 to 90% of the tax. So that will still be intact. The smaller people, you allow them to focus on their business rather than getting this so much into tax systems and accounting and all that. It's better for your GDP also. Let the smaller business flourish beyond a particular limit, catch them that. So that is something which can happen in the indirect taxes. I don't think it's going to erode the taxes as such to a great extent.
Yeah, I'm not into GST at all, but I was wondering why you have got two separate limits, one for services, one for goods. The services is continues to be 20 lakhs.
One is a separate limit, and now you have separate rates also, right? So you're saying up to 40 lakh in the states where they want to increase to 40, only for goods that applies.
Yeah.
No, it's exempt completely. No, it's completely exempt, right? So composition is up to 1.5. Now we have brought in for services, we have brought in this 50 lakh limit with a 6% rate,
right?
Which is a new rate which has been introduced. It's not there in the GST earlier. It was 5, 12, 18 and all that. So,
and in services, sir, for restaurant they have made it 5%.
Yeah.
That's another rate actually.
That's true.
There is multiplicity of rates, sir, actually in GST.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, they will be able to tell you better. The distinction between goods and services is actually coming
the right
down.
person to talk
no,
about
the only logic there is that for services, the value addition is not that much. So, for goods, for example, up to 1.5 crore, you can give a composition of 1% on the logic that if you're a trader, if you're buying and selling, what you're losing out, the revenue is only on the value addition. Wherever services, let's say it's a beauty parlor and things like that, the value addition itself is huge, right? The value of the component, the raw material, whatever, is not that much. And therefore, for services, you can't afford to have a 1% composition rate. You could have a higher composition rate, but the threshold perhaps should have been same.
For I'm on the threshold part of it, and then even in services, you have to pay the salary of, like, for example, you're running a beauty parlor, you have got assistants.
Yes.
But for salaries, there's no input credit, no? That's
another problem.
Correct. Absolutely. But so maybe on this issue, sir, I would like to go to Somesh ji. In fact, maybe here, does GST law permit discriminatory treatment for goods and services?
See, there is an inherent difference. So somewhere the difference will crop up as far as exemption thresholds are concerned. But yes, as far as the tax system is concerned, being a supply, whether it's a goods or not, it's the same.
Right.
But yes, at the threshold level, you can distinguish, and that's what you have been doing it. That okay, making supplies beyond interstate supplies of services will be taxed at the zero threshold. Now they are bringing in gradually because they feel it is to be given. Restaurants will not have that kind of a requirement of having interstate sales, so they said that okay, restaurants are kept out of the preview of that. So that distinction exists at the threshold level only, not beyond that. After that is all supply only.
Supply. So let me go back to this. After a long time, sir, I see this. The property-related tax regime has been tinkered with, and the benefits, of course, have been welcomed largely by people, sir. So how do you look at these changes in the exemption to this notional rental, the rollover capital gains for two houses, etc.? So what implication it will have, sir? How do you look at it, sir? Because I see that lots of ITAT cases, a good number of cases are related to this only, sir. The capital gains, then Section 54 related investment in one house, two house. If you buy two flats and you break the wall, convert it into one house, then the ITT decision is a revenue saying that no, you are not allowed, you are not entitled to Section 54A benefit. So all these things will go away now, sir?
Well, to a certain extent, well, what has been done is that you used to get a benefit of no tax or benefit from notional tax Because house property income is inherently notional if it is not let out. So if you had self-occupied house property, or you had a house property which you couldn't use for if you were employed abroad, in respect of one house, you used to get your annual value was considered as nil.
Right.
And now what has happened is that instead of one house property, the benefit is available for two self-occupied house properties.
Right.
That is one aspect from the user's point of view. Then there is, of course, the payment of interest. If you have if you have borrowed money and constructed the house property, then you were getting a benefit in respect of your interest payment up to 2 lakhs of rupees. So that continues. The other thing that has been done is that if you had one house property and then you sold it, and you had capital gains, then you could take advantage of the rollover benefits under Section 54 in respect of one house property. So now that has been extended to two house properties. But the capital gains must not exceed 2 crores.
2 crores, yes.
So if the capital gains exceed 2 crores in respect of one house property, then you are not entitled to it.
So that becomes taxable in that case.
Yeah, there is no change. If only
up to the limit of 2 crores.
If your capital gains does not exceed 2 crores, then you can reinvest that capital gains in 2 house properties.
Right.
So that's one. And the third was, of course, the
Then this is once in a lifetime offer, sir.
Yeah, this is once in a lifetime.
Right, sir, correct.
And the third one is your the extension of sunset clause in respect of
Section 80 IEB for the real estate developers.
Yeah, for the real estate developers.
Right, sir.
Whether it should be done or not, that's a different issue.
Right.
That, some economists had opined earlier that this rollover benefit should be done away with, but that's a broad policy issue.
Right.
That the government has to take.
But this is for real estate developers. In fact, sir, here one more point which comes to my mind. So let's presume, sir, that I have 2 flats, small flats, sir, and I sell both the flats, and I have capital gains on 2 or maybe 3. So the revenue is, assessing officer is going to allow me to invest all the capital gains if the total sum is less than 2 crore.
Yes.
Then it's fine.
Yeah.
There will be no objection. Yeah, this 2 crore has to come from the sale of just one flat.
No, I don't think so. I think the language used is where the capital gains is does not exceed 2 crores.
Yes, sir. This is Section 54, sir.
Yeah.
Because this is something which will trigger further litigation in days to come.
Normally the language
No,
used.
the language used is very clear. It says that where the amount of capital gain does not exceed 2 crores of rupees, the assessee may, at his option, purchase or construct 2 residential houses.
And if it exceeds 2 crores, then you can do 1. There is no restriction. Suppose capital gain is 3 crores.
Right.
You can invest entire 3 in one house.
Yeah, in one.
So
that position doesn't change.
That position doesn't change.
That position
But
doesn't change.
coming to your query, one will need to look at the particular section also, because probably there is mention from the sale of a house property. Of a house property would mean one house.
Achha, this is what it says.
That's what you need to look from the original section, not in here, but the original section dealing with the capital gains on
Because
house
this
property.
amendment, sir, 54A.
54.
Yes, sir. Because this is something which I fear that will lead to a lot of litigation, because certain assessing officers may come up with their own interpretation, and then there will be further litigation. So the whole purpose of giving this benefit will be defeated, because there will be no relief for the taxpayers.
See here what the finance minister said, the idea was that a person in the old age wants to give property to his two sons.
Yes.
So he buys two houses for that purpose. So why should he be asked to pay tax? So that is the purpose.
The intent is very clear.
Intent is there only. So to that extent, probably it may be given only in relation to one house property only.
Right. Okay.
No, but I don't think so, because the language used is buildings.
Buildings, sir. So the building has been defined.
Buildings.
It doesn't say, it's plural.
It's a plural.
Should be.
I mean, even if it is buildings, so the General Clauses Act will come to the rescue of the taxpayers. The building may be rated as buildings. So that is not the issue. So, but sir, here, I mean, this is one issue. Okay, sir. The other thing which you were talking about, so the exemption on notional rental from unsold stock for the real estate, sir.
Yeah.
To what extent this will really benefit, sir? Maybe in present situation when we see that real estate developers have largely unsold rather than any sold stock. So in that scenario, perhaps this will be a great relief for them, sir.
Yeah, well, earlier it used to be restricted to one house property.
No, sir, the real estate. One year, sir.
One
year. Now it has been extended.
But 1 year also came in, like, I think.
Yeah,
I think only
a year or so.
1.5 years.
The number of mobile calls one receives from the real estate dealer indicates that for years together they are unable to sell off the stocks now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this was introduced by Finance Act 2017.
17 only.
1 year.
So that they have taken, that means the government has taken note of this problem. And they are taking it further note that this problem, they know that this will continue for some time, for this unsold stock to be cleared. It will take a few years. Looking at
there is a recession in the property.
Yes, there is a recession in the property sector.
Yeah, the property market has been affected. The real estate tech sector has been affected because of various reasons.
Right.
And also customers, in now many cases, because builders have not been able to deliver on time, etc., they are buying it only after the construction is complete. So that also means that you have a delay in the transaction itself.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But that brings me to, sir, the GST again for this real estate side. There is a proposal, there is a group of ministers which has been set up by the GST Council, and they are looking at perhaps coming up with some kind of composition scheme for the real estate where they have to pay only 5% GST with no input tax credit.
I think this idea must be resisted. I think this temptation of the council of the government to look at quick fix solution. Okay, this sector is not passing on the input credit or has a problem in passing on the input credit, hence deny the input credit.
Right.
If this is the solution, then why have a GST to start with? I mean, have everything, no input credit, you have 5% rate on every transaction. So I think that is not a solution. Having said that, for real estate sector, yes, the effective rate of tax and the GST has gone up in most cases after GST has come in, because earlier you had 4.5%, let's say service tax, 0.5% or 1% VAT, and then few, taxes like excise, etc., which were not allowed as a credit. So if you combined everything, maybe the earlier instance was 8 to 9%, and now it is 12%. So it is higher. So if you reduce the rate from 18%, today it's 18%, you give 1/3 deduction, so it becomes 12%. So you reduce the rate from 18 to 12, then effective rate will come down to around 8%. Right. That I think is a much better solution rather than doing it 5, because once you do it at 5, then as a real estate player, my incentive to buy something on cash is more, because I don't want to pay tax on my input because I don't get tax credit. So you are then getting the cash component in or back in the sector which you badly need to formalize. Right? So I think 5% flat rate with input tax credit restriction is not a good idea for any sector, more so for real estate.
Okay. So maybe let me go to Somesh. In fact, another interesting change which I found here is with respect to this Prevention of Money Laundering Act. What implication it will have?
See, PML is one law which is becoming more and more draconian with every successive FM. Now, it's a very unfortunate thing that when Chidambaram sir was there and he was strengthening this law to become stronger and stronger, at that time also I had cautioned that this is not going to be a law which will be easy to administer and easy to face for anyone. Such a tough law to deal with, and you keep on making it more difficult and more difficult for people to face. you take away it's virtually taking away your right to property in this country. Just on the basis of
some mere initiation of investigation.
Yeah, we see not even investigation of other offence. Simply because there's a reasonable belief that something of an offence has been committed. Just attach this property, sign die, it keeps on just lingering on. Already you have 40,000 crore worth of assets lying with the PMLA. They do not know what to do. Now they're trying to engage an outside agency. So, and then make it a standalone offence. Firstly, face the main offence, schedule offence. Even if you get exonerated from there, you still have to face PMLA offence as an independent offence. 10 years of sentence, all your property gone, and reoccurring offence still more this thing. So basically, it's a very draconian law. Right from the day one, it takes away your right of property. Even your business assets are attached. And I know of cases where you are running your business, but all your profits have to go to the PMLA. And when I ask them that what will happen, whether I'll pay income tax or PMLA will pay income tax, no answer. The law has been made, attached, right. All profits will go to them. Rent, attached property, rents will go to PMLA. Whose rental property it will be, who will pay taxes, whether PMLA from that day or no answers. Nobody has answers to this thing, attach it. And the funniest thing is, an asset which has been in picture for 50 years, say, some king has a palace. Today, his allegation is there that he committed an offence under PMLA. Simply because out of that fund, he did whitewash of that house. His whole property can be attached. And under SOFEMA, they had a provision that, okay, pay away 10, 20,000 for whatever whitewash you did,
right,
and get your property back. But under PMLA, this is also not there. Such a draconian law, and nobody knows, it's really surprising that this law is just becoming tougher and tougher by day. Legislators are not applying their mind, and more and more powers are coming to PMLA. They should be happy, and some people should be very happy. And of course,
but
you see the kind of corruption.
Exactly they are managing, they're attaching such a huge number of properties, but who is the custodian? How exactly property is being taken care of?
It is simply attached and said that possession is taken over. The possession now is allowed to be taken over since 2013. Possession taken over, then they say all rent will vest in PMLA in case it is movable property. In case it is cars, they will say that okay, maybe we'll release you if it is this thing, but pay us equivalent value of whatever we feel is the money gone into it. So for the time being, we are just leasing you. Bank loans, even the banks were not allowed to have the property. They said no, the first right is here. They said no, we are secured creditors. They said well with you may be secured creditors. But we are implementing an enforcement law. Or is the first priority.
So the banks cannot exercise
so
their
even
own
that
right.
were not allowed to.
Okay.
So even banks and Madras High Court had a very beautiful commentary to make on this. I get kidnapped. I pay ransom. State catches the person who kidnapped me and took money from me. Then there's a fight between state and this thing. What he did with that ransom money, how he did, we attached assets. I go out of picture.
Absolutely.
The money will be decided who is to get between state and this thing only. So this is what kind of a law it is. So now gradually they are trying to bring in, okay, that beneficiary interest, courts can decide and courts can leave it.
Okay.
So it means otherwise there's no provisions, courts, equity jurisdiction, maybe otherwise they can do it. So this is the kind of law which you are making. You say that we are making under international treaty, financial action task force,
right.
Other countries are doing. But other countries are forcing you, half of your fugitives run to those countries only. And then
they are giving them citizenship also.
Yeah, they get all these things. So what kind of international cooperation you are getting? So at somewhere you have to think that is it becoming a political tool for exploitation of other parties?
Right. So, but what implication this will have? This
coming
90
this
days
amendment, they have done in Section 8A, Section 8, which is dealing with the attachment of properties. So earlier there was a period of 90 days that ED of its own would attach a property, their executive officers, and after that they were required to go to the adjudicating authority. Look, we have attached this property, you either confirm or you don't confirm. Mechanically, adjudicating authorities were confirming, but they needed to go to 90 days. Now that period has been brought into 365 days. That up to 365 days they can just sleep over it and then go to the adjudicating authority, and then adjudicating authority will confirm and the same. And even though in those 365 days, they said that in case somebody goes for litigation, that no, this attachment should not be done, that attachment should not be done, or show cause notice not be issued, blah, 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 blah. So that period will get excluded. So it can even go beyond 365 days. This is what the amendment is all about. So basically it is making executive breathe easy because they have to deal with so many cases. Look at the magnitude of the cases. There are about 80, 90 offences which are scheduled offences which are included, number of IPC offences. You have to replicate the investigation of that in your own setup. ED may be having how many officers? 300, 400 officers.
Correct.
And all over police, all over customs with misdeclaration offences, income tax, foreign properties and all that, undisclosed properties. Every other offence, environmental offences, Arms Act, Immoral Trafficking Act.
It's a part of the scheduled offences, yes.
Now, whatever they are booked by any agency, police including, wildlife authorities, other including, there will be implications there also. Earlier it used to be, 30 lakhs and below, you not take cognizance of offence. No, now you have to take right from the beginning, even from 1 rupee transaction if the offence is there.
Correct.
And you need not go for this thing, the police has filed a complaint or not, of your own you can start. So I think every year, PMLA authorities are required to do something like 40 to 50,000 cases. As against that, they may be doing about 200 to 300. So pick and choose, select. Because you don't have staff.
We are heading for very serious...
Yes. And then pick and choose will be on what basis? Are there any internal guidelines? Do this kind of a case, do this kind of a case. And there are so many offences which you feel are meaningless. Money out of murder, waging a war. Waging a war, one will need money before that or out of
sir, in case of immoral traffic also they are invoking PMLA.
Yeah.
No, you see, PMLA, there is a bit of a problem because we will have to, there is an international cooperation. There's some FATF guidelines come.
FATF is there.
And then there is a mutual evaluation of whatever your prevention of money laundering law is, whether it is in accordance with the international standards or not. So it's a little difficult to have a different path because we have to be in line with the international
But it is not done internationally, sir.
No, it is.
This way, sir?
No. The administration part of it is purely Indian.
In-house, our indigenous production, made in India.
So Indian or whatever. Right. So there is scope of improvement, obviously. I don't say that. But what I am saying is that as far as the law is concerned, there is some kind of, oversight, international oversight. So may not be, there is nothing much that you can do as far as the law is concerned, but the implementation of the law obviously is your domestic concern. That there is always a scope for improvement there.
See, as far as that is also concerned, yes, he's right, there's an international this thing to be followed, protocol to be followed, financial action task forces, but then you be vocal there. In WTO, how vocal was India? At least it led the group and said that no, this is not possible. So there also you tell. You are thrusting it down our throat, and from here the fugitives go and go to your countries. And then years together, they are not coming back. They get citizenship. So what role, what international cooperation is coming through? So that is something which we should be vocal about. India should take lead on those platforms also, because this is a tough law, very tough law for everyone to implement, if it has to be done in the tax in which it is being made.
So it's a tough law, sir. Our administrative machinery is so intelligent that they make it tougher. That's all. So, okay. So, sir, before we wrap up, sir.
There are one or two other points on income tax. So there is a little bit of confusion. About the TDS on bank deposits.
That is a 194A.
194A.
Yeah, right. So, okay.
So it is not as if there will be no taxation.
There will be taxation
will be there.
Only TDS.
Only TDS.
Okay. The relief is in terms of that only, that you don't have to claim refund.
Yeah. So that is one.
Right,
the other one Pratik has pointed out, and it struck me also. It is not relating to the law, but it is relating to an announcement by the finance minister in paragraph 59 of his budget speech, which is I welcome the move of anonymous assessment, tax assessments.
Right, sir. Okay.
If you are an SSC in Delhi, maybe that your assessment will be done by someone sitting in Hyderabad. This was something which was announced earlier.
Yes,
that the finance minister in his speech has mentioned that
2 years time it will be done.
Yeah, within 2 years.
Yes, sir.
No, what is interesting is that he says that within the next 2 years, almost all verification and assessment of returns selected for scrutiny
Right, sir.
will be done electronically
Yes, sir.
through anonymized back office. Now the interesting part comes, manned by tax experts and officials
Right, sir.
without any personal interface between the taxpayers and tax officers.
Right, sir.
The thing is that he has used the word tax experts.
Right, sir.
So maybe Pratik will also
Be a
help
part of
in,
that.
help
Scrutiny.
in the
Scrutiny.
assessment of
True, sir. True, sir.
scrutiny assessment.
See, on that point, even on the indirect tax side, is somewhere your system has to so improve that revenue bias should get reduced. So many strictures getting passed routinely by High Court that revenue bias, you're not following law, you're not repeatedly you're ignoring laws and rulings and all that, despite the same being quoted. So somewhere it's a very sorry state of affairs, and indirect taxes officers are being punished, penalties are being imposed to be paid by them personally. So things, if they do not improve, somewhere there has to be a role of tax experts. Otherwise, revenue bias is not going to go.
No, but that's a dangerous thing that you were mentioning. I have not come across any tax administration. You take help of the, like for example, auditors, even in income tax cases,
So that's
outside
the
auditors
Yeah,
are
there's Section
appointed.
142 to 2 years.
There is
Yeah,
a
the special
provision of
auditors,
that.
for instance.
there should be assistance provided.
Even in GST, we have this provision for this, the special audit.
The special audit, that's
Yes,
a
yeah.
different
That's a
provision.
different, yes.
But your assessment, I do not think you will.
Assessment, aid should be provided. Let the tax experts give advice, rulings and all that.
Yeah, that can be done. So I do not know. I mean, he has just mentioned it. That one has to wait and see.
But so
what
there is a keyword, sir. The keyword is that simultaneously refund will be issued.
Yeah,
Within 24
So, but
hours.
now,
24
now the
hours.
issue is, sir, there's a refund. I mean, it can perhaps happen, and it can become a
No, refunds
feasibility.
are becoming quite fast now.
It has become faster, no doubt about it.
But that will be only in cases, I'm presuming, where your case is not picked
Not
up for
selected
assessment.
for
Scrutiny.
Once it's selected for scrutiny, of course, you can't give the refund at that point in time. You have to first ascertain how much is the refund.
Yeah, but processing is done even now. So, the refund based
Yes,
on
sir.
processing will be given.
Processing
most
is done. Yeah.
Most probably.
Yeah, right.
What he has said is on acceptance of assessment, same day refund will be done. And assessment will be accepted within 24 hours, where they need to be accepted.
Yes, exactly. This is what he said. So, sir, before we wrap up, sir, we'll go to the GST. That the Honorable Finance Minister has said that 21% growth rate in GST in the next fiscal.
Yes, and I would have expected some more guidance as to how the government wants to do, because you can't increase the tax rate. You can't increase significantly the tax base now. Of course, the petroleum products are
Shrinking
coming
rather,
in.
yes.
So therefore, the only way to do this is to plug the tax evasion, right? And how that will be done, because if you compare this year vis-a-vis last year, your collection has grown broadly. If you take the overall average collection per month, around 8%. So 8% moving to 20-21% looks like a tall ask. So let's see what I was expecting that based on the trend, a more realistic estimate will be presented for the next year. But maybe there is something which the government thinks, and maybe they've done their assessment, the large area of tax evasion that they believe that they will be able to unearth. Otherwise, it looks difficult to me.
Right. So on this note, of course, the GST is going through a very tough phase, and the Honorable Finance Minister has set a very tough target for his successor, unless he comes back. So this 21% is going to be a tough job, but of course he has on the personal income tax front, he has given a lot of relief, and let me thank all my guests for articulating it, making it very simpler and clearer that what are the benefits available and why it has been given. But the PMLA front, yes, maybe the next government should set up a committee and take a fresh look at PMLA. Internationally, it is a draconian law. But whether there is a need to, whether this comes into conflict with various other constitutional rights or maybe legal rights, perhaps that needs to be taken a fresh look upon. So on this note, let me thank all of you for watching TIOL Tube. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.